Welcome into another episode of My Curious Mind podcast. Let's get started. All right, welcome in once again to another episode of My Curious Mind podcast. I'm your host, Mr. J. Thank you for joining me today. I'm flying solo. My wife, Tara J, is out of town, so she won't be joining me today. But we have a very interesting and amazing podcast for you today. Let's go ahead and get straight to it. Let's see what we have here. All right, so first up, we have the story about Tiffany Haddish. If you haven't been following recent news, she made a big announcement about her future dating plans. Then we're going to talk about the Black Panther mystery, or who will be playing the next Black Panther. Will it be Ryan Gosling or someone else? Also, I'm going to dive into the Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese saga a little bit and give a kind of a nuanced perspective about that. And then we'll do our nostalgia time. I think you'll like it today. And we'll end our last segment with I'm Too Old for This Shit, one of my favorite segments that we have here on this podcast. But let's move forward quickly to our first story. So in recent news, it's come out on Godfrey's podcast, comedian Godfrey. Tiffany Haddish made a statement. She's done dating Black American men. So I'm going to share her comments and quotes from the podcast, and then we'll watch a video of her talking about why she's done with Black men, and I'll kind of break that apart and give my perspective on that. So let's look at what she exactly said, because I want to quote her correctly. So in a recent sit-down interview with Godfrey on his In Godfrey We Trust podcast, Haddish told the comedian that she's done with men from the USA and is looking across the pond for her next partner. Any Black man, and I'm quoting Tiffany Haddish with this next statement. Any Black man born in America, I can't fuck with you. I'm only fucking with Black men born outside of America and everything else, she said in an interview. So let's quickly look at a clip from that interview, and I'll kind of dissect kind of what she was saying. Let's see, I think I have it right here. Well, all right, so I gotta get back. Let's see here. All right, we're gonna go like this. I'm gonna share my screen. All right, it's gonna give me an option. I'm gonna do like this.
Have more than two baby daddies usually have some sort of mental illness. Every time you get pregnant, there's stem cells that come from that baby, and them stem cells end up behind your eyes and your brain and your heart, and those stem cells will always stay with you, right? And that is why any Black man born in America, I can't fuck with you. Most Black men born outside of America and everything else.
So that's why we're going to Africa.
Why? Exactly.
Okay, girl. Why,
right. Because I think my body is rejecting these American.
Damn.
Wow.
My bloodline's like, no.
Wow.
No. And that's why I'm a little bit crazy.
So you need this nut.
Or a white dude.
Oh.
Interesting. All right, so let's kind of break that down. Let me see here. All right, back up. All right, so I mean, you hear this a lot. I've been around a lot of black women over the years. I'm married to a black woman. My wife doesn't particularly say this, nor has she ever made this comment, but I've heard other black women in general make this comment and about they're no longer dating. I've never heard a black woman say they're no longer dating black American men and they want black men outside of the United States, or as she put it, across the pond from Europe. I've never really heard that before, but I have heard black women say, hey, they're going to give other ethnicities a chance and they're tired of black men. I personally don't have a problem with what Tiffany Haddish said. She's a comedian. It could have been more of a joke. As a black man, I'm not really getting bent out of shape that she's choosing to date, and she says, black men from across the pond or from Europe. But I think anytime you go through relationship turmoils or you don't have, I guess, a success or a really good relationship, or you just can't make things work with the people that you're coming across or the people you're deciding to date or the setting in which you're choosing the people from, you need to switch it up. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, she's identified what she thinks may be the problem. She took a kind of a comedic approach, which I don't think is scientifically based, but it's fine. She's a comedian. That's what comedians do. They take real life situations, problems that's going on in their everyday life, and they kind of make fun of it and put a different spin and a different perspective on it. And, you know, that's what she decided to do. So overall, I empower her to do that. You know, finding love sometimes in life causes us as individuals to do something different than what we've been doing. I once had a professor used to always tell me, if you keep doing the same old thing over and over again and getting the same result, well, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome, that is the definition of insanity. You have to change something that you're doing in order to get a different outcome, because you keep doing the same thing over and over again. And in her instance, she continues to date Black American men here from America, and it's not getting her what she wants. So she did the smart thing, and she's changing it up, and she's looking for Black men from other parts of the world, or as she said, across the pond. So again, overall, there's nothing wrong with that. I empower my sister to make that move, and hopefully moving down the road, we hear a good update or some good updates on her relationship status, that she's found a really good man to love her. Because overall, she seems like I think she'd be a good catch. I don't know her personally. Just know her from on TV and her stand-up comedy her stand-up comedy specials and the movie roles that she's had. So I wish her nothing but good luck. All right, so let's move on to the next story that we have here. So in some recent online memes or some online fake or real stories, there's been some articles out there on social media and also on the internet of Marvel's next Black Panther. We all know that Chadwick Boseman, I hope I'm saying his name right, but Chadwick passed away a couple of years ago. So this is just a weird kind of a story or a gossipy thing to be out there. But we have Ryan Gosling's name has come up in some kind of way. Marvel fans beg Ryan Gosling to lead Black Panther after a white version was revealed in the comic book. I think personally, if Disney decides to do something like this, it'll be horrible. And doing my research about this story, I didn't find any credible news outlet or website that confirmed that he's playing Black Panther. So for now, this is just a rumor, and it's something that was put out there on social media or on the internet, kind of made up. But Black Panther in the African American community is a really big movie. Like when Black Panther 1 came out, I remember going with a group of friends, and we really loved it. To be honest, I haven't seen Black Panther 2, but everybody I know that watched Black Panther 2, for the most part, really loved the movie. So amongst Disney movies and the African American community, or recent Disney movies, it's probably a big favorite. But if Disney wants to alienate the African American community, casting Ryan Gosling, who by my estimation is a good person. I just know about him as acting. So this is nothing personal against him, my take on this. But if Disney were to cast him as the next Black Panther, I'm willing to bet that probably 99.9% of African American people won't watch the movie. And Disney will lose a lot of money at the box office, and the movie will probably flop, as they say. I don't see Disney making a mistake in doing that, but it is interesting. If you go and do your research, this particular rumor came about because in a recent comic book issue of the Black Panther, which I haven't read, but I did do some research about it. The character who's playing Black Panther in the comic book takes off his mask, and it's revealed that he is a white man. I don't know the story behind why the Black Panther character in the current comic book issue was revealed to be white, but I think the white Black Panther in the comic book has something to do with this, I guess you say, this meme or this story going around on social media and the internet of Ryan Gosling playing the Black Panther. But overall, I'll say it will be a big mistake if this were to happen. And this is nothing personally at Ryan Gosling. I just think Black Panther is a movie that is marketed towards everyone, but it has a really special place in the African American community. And if Disney ever wanted to alienate a group of people, cast a white person as Black Panther, then you're going to alienate a vast majority of people in the African American community. So it'll be interesting moving forward to see what really happens with this. But again, if you're just listening to the podcast now, it has not been confirmed that Ryan Gosling is playing Black Panther. This is just a rumor. It's something that's out there. All right, next story. This right now really isn't a hot story, but I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago when they had their first game against each other, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, this is probably a bigger story. But I decided to talk about this today because I often go on social media, just like a lot of people, and I find the back and forth chatter about this rivalry interesting. In college, it definitely was more of a rivalry. They were probably kind of more evenly paired against each other. I would say the matchups between them in college were probably the ratings were higher. Women's college basketball ratings are overall just higher than WNBA ratings. But the thing that I find interesting the most about the so-called rivalry or the people supporting Caitlin Clark versus the people that support Angel Reese is that what happened in college may not necessarily translate to the NBA. In college, they had a sort of a rivalry for a short time. In the WNBA, there really isn't a major rivalry. I think people that want these two young ladies to have a rivalry are kind of pumping it up. Um, if you look at them going head to head in the WNBA, I think out of 6 games, Caitlin Clark team has won 5 and Angel Reese team has won 1. So basically, Angel Reese is 1-6 versus Caitlin Clark's team, and Caitlin Clark's team is 5-1 versus Angel Reese. If you go on social media, another big sticking point or an issue for me is how people are kind of comparing these two as the great or the next big stars in the WNBA. I think what's difficult with that comparison is that I think Caitlin Clark, based on her style of play and how she plays basketball and how she scores, I think it's safe to say that with if everything goes the way it's going with her game and she stays healthy, she is going to be that marquee star because she can handle the ball and she can score the basket. Angel Reese, I think her WNBA career will be much different than her college career. I think Angel Reese offensively can't compare to Caitlin Clark. I think she's a hell of a rebounder. There's definitely a niche for her. I would like to see her be the first WNBA player to average, 18 or 20 rebounds a game. I think she's capable of doing it. The way she offensive rebounds, she's definitely should have a chance of doing something like that. I personally think the comparisons of these two ladies going head to head and being the next two WNBA stars is kind of not correct. Their careers are just, or their trajectory in their careers are just, they're just on different levels right now. Caitlin Clark is a offensive dominant player, and Angel Reese is a really good rebounder. Her offensive game isn't really there yet to compare her to Caitlin Clark, and they play 2 different positions. Angel Reese can't really guard Caitlin Clark, and Caitlin Clark probably couldn't guard Angel Reese if she took her down in the post. So it's just, I just think the comparisons of these two being the next 2 big WNBA stars is a little too soon. I think Angel Reese, if her offensive game gets there, I think it can be there. But more than anything, I would like to see these 2 women really just focus on their individual careers and their teams. And on social media, I wish we wouldn't try to pit these 2 women against each other so much. I've never really come across an interview or heard or read anything in print where Caitlin Clark is really discussing Angel Reese until she's asked about it. I do think sometimes Angel Reese fixates and focuses too much on trying to be mentioned in the same breath of Caitlin Clark, or whenever someone is talking about Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese wants to connect her name to it. I kind of get why she does that for marketing and popularity, but to be honest, I would like to see Angel Reese just focus on herself, her specific brand, and work on her game to the point to where she could be a dominant player one day, and it could be a true WNBA rivalry. But right now, it isn't a rivalry. They're just not on the same level. Caitlin Clark's game offensively is just more advanced than Angel Reese, even though they play different positions. I don't expect or see Angel Reese ever playing like Caitlin Clark, just like I wouldn't see Caitlin Clark averaging 12, 14, or 15 rebounds a game. But with that being said, I just don't see why people are making it a rivalry right now. It's nothing personally against Angel Reese. It just isn't a rivalry right now. Maybe one day it can be, and I hope for the sake of the WNBA in the future, this can become a big time rivalry. But I think I had a question up here on the board. All the talk around Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, is it all about race, about skills, or both? I think it's more about race. I think people on social media get so caught up in race when it should be about basketball skill. Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark has never really mentioned Angel Reese, nor has she said anything racial or anything that is negative about Angel Reese. I don't really think Angel Reese has necessarily said anything negative about Caitlin Clark or anything racial. But for whatever reason, people on the internet are trying to pit these two against each other when it should be more about basketball and less about race. But again, that'll be another interesting story to follow for the rest of the season and next year and the year after. All right, let's get to our next story. Well, let me see. Did we miss something? Okay. Well, we covered our first three stories. Tiffany Haddish, Ryan Gosling, possibly playing Black Panther, and also Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. All right, gets me to one of my favorite segments on this podcast is the nostalgia time. All right. So today I'm going to be talking about 80s and 90s school lunches. And for me, a brother that was born in 1979, I have very strong, vivid memories of the 80s and 90s. So if you're born in the 90s, you're not going to have any memories of the 80s. And it may be some people born in the 2000s out there, so they're not going to have memories of the 80s or the 90s. But let's see. All right, so real quick, let me set this up. For me, cafeteria food was like a rite of passage. I know when I was in school in the 80s and the 90s, I loved cafeteria food. I think this was during the time where a lot of cafeteria food, or most of it, was still kind of homemade, made right there in the cafeteria. There was some prepackaged things that we had, but there was a good amount of the foods that were made right there in the cafeteria. Excuse me. All right, so let's get to it. See here, we got a school lunch tray. Those are those hard plastic reusable trays before they start using that plastic styrofoam trays that you just threw away after you ate on them. All right, so my favorite thing, number one on the list is that school pizza, that rectangle shaped pizza. Now, the picture that I have right here, the one on the right, it has pepperonis on it. I don't ever remember eating pepperonis on my pizza growing up. In the school system where I'm from in Nashville, Tennessee, we did not have pepperonis on our pizza. Maybe in the private schools or maybe in other cities and states in America, they had pepperonis. Ours was basically cheese. It was a cheese pizza. It was rectangle shaped. And I often wondered, why was the school pizza rectangularly shaped, but when you went to Pizza Hut, Papa John's, or Domino's, it was shaped in a triangle? So I don't know their rationale for doing it. Maybe they got more slices out of it when they cut it like that. Really don't know. But to this day, some of the best pizza. And now they don't serve rectangular shaped pizza in the school system. It's either the personal circle shaped pizza or it's a triangle shaped pizza now. All right, next on my list, I got that school cafeteria McRib sandwich. And these were interesting because in Nashville, the school system that I attended, they would serve it sometimes as beef, a beef McRib, or a pork McRib. I personally preferred the beef one. The pork one wasn't as good. It was okay. But the days that it had that McRib, I wanted a little extra sauce on it. And I preferred it served on what we call a submarine bun or a hoagie bun, or sometimes they got cheap. They stuffed it on a hot dog bun, which half of the McRib was hanging out. But it was one of my favorite sandwiches. And they usually served it with some corn or some mashed potatoes and some English peas. But it was still good, really good. All right, another one of my favorite treats from in the 80s and the 90s were these Mickey Mouse ice cream sandwich bars, whatever you want to call them. As you see, the Mickey Mouse ears were dipped in chocolate. I think when I was in elementary school, we paid like $25, not $25, 25 cents or 35 cents for these. And I remember the night before school, I would be searching in the couch cushions and looking on the floor, trying to find that 35 cents so I can get one of these. But these were by far one of my favorite treats. And it'd be interesting. I should do some research and see if I can find one of these. But and looking for finding this picture for this podcast episode, it took me had to do a lot of Googling to get this picture. So they probably don't still serve these, but if they do, the internet will know. All right, so the next thing were these little ice cream cups with this little wooden, I guess it's a spoon, or it almost reminds me of that thing when you went to the dentist or to the doctor, you're doing your checkup and they tell you to say, and they put that spoon in your mouth. But in elementary school, I used to love getting these ice cream cups. They had vanilla. I think we had sherbet. We had chocolate. And then you had the strawberry, chocolate, and vanilla cups. I usually went for the vanilla or the sherbet. And again, I think these were like 25 or 35 cents when I was in elementary school. All right, the next thing that I remember that I really loved a lot was those square fish sandwiches. And McDonald's still serves square fish. And I'll tell you a quick story about the square fish sandwiches. When I was a kid, definitely in elementary school, so about second or third grade, in my head, I knew where fish came from. They came from the lake or a river or in an ocean. But I assumed in my head as a kid in elementary school that there was a fish that was kind of square shaped, had a head and had a tail and had some fins and some gills, and they would go out in the water and catch this fish, and they would chop off the tail, chop off the head, and scrape off the stuff that you scrape off the scales and stuff on the fish, and then they would clean it and they would bread it and they would fry it. So up until I was probably in the fourth or fifth grade, I thought, like I said, that there was a square fish. But again, I love these square fish sandwiches. We didn't get cheese on ours. This must be a fancy school where I got this picture from. They never offered us cheese. Now, I got in high school, they did offer us cheese with our hamburgers, but I don't recall ever getting offered cheese with our square fish sandwiches. But McDonald's is one of those restaurants I know to this day that still serves a square fish sandwich. But again, used to love that square fish. All right. This by far is one of those interesting cafeteria foods. This was a breakfast pizza, and it took me a lot of searching to find a picture of this. But I actually located a company. Don't know where they're located here in America, but they still sell these in bulk, like a big pack of them. So I guess some school or daycare or summer camps or church camps somewhere in America still buys these. But this was a little mini breakfast pizza that was probably about that long, about that wide, but it has sausages on the top of it. But the most interesting thing about this is that when you would bite it, it had gravy in the middle. Yes, I said gravy. It sounds nasty as hell now saying it, but at the time, even though I'm not a fan of like white gravy or gravy oozing out of something that I'm biting, this tastes really well. And I had kind of a trick of how to eat it. I would hold it like this and bite it so the gravy wouldn't ooze out onto my hand, and you kind of hold it at an angle like that, and you have to bite it real quick so that gravy wouldn't ooze out. But they would serve this at Matter of fact, in high school, we would eat these at the high school that I attended for breakfast, and I loved them. But the gravy thing is kind of crazy. I wouldn't want to ever eat pizza now. I don't care if it's even, I don't care that it's breakfast pizza. I still wouldn't want to eat pizza that has gravy in the middle. All right, the next thing were those homemade Rice Krispie treats. To this day, I will try to eat the store-bought factory packaged Rice Krispie treats. They're okay, but the homemade Rice Krispie treats taste so much better. So much better. They're 1,000 times better. And these Rice Krispie treats are one of those things that in school cafeterias that they made homemade along with the brownies and other desserts right there on the spot. And these taste so much better. I think they used to serve them either like one big piece or two small pieces in plastic and some plastic in a plastic sandwich bag for like 50 cents. And I used to love to eat these. And to this day, homemade Rice Krispie treats are way better than the store-bought Rice Krispie treats. All right, the next thing that I love about the 80s and 90s school cafeteria food is Sloppy Joe sandwiches. And on the days that we had Sloppy Joe, I would be begging, please, please, give me an extra scoop, give me an extra scoop. And sometimes the cafeteria person would give you an extra scoop. And when you eat your Sloppy Joe sandwich, all that extra stuff would fall out, and you would take your spoon or your fork and would eat it out of your tray. It was like you had two Sloppy Joe sandwiches. It's just your second one didn't have no bread. My wife, I wish she was here on this podcast today because she hates Sloppy Joe. I love Sloppy Joe. And hit me up in the if you know if schools still serve Sloppy Joe, hit me up in the comment section of the podcast. I would like to know if schools still serve something like Sloppy Joe because I haven't seen it in years. All right, so my next thing that I enjoy about school cafeteria food in the 80s and 90s were those fried burritos. And they never had meat in them. They were just bean burritos. That's what made it amazing because you went home that day with a lot of gas, but the fried burritos were amazing. I think once I got to like junior high school, they actually started giving us taco sauce to put on it. But even without the taco sauce, it was amazing. And if they were piping hot, it's one of those things when you would break it in the middle, you kind of had to let it cool off. But love fried burritos, one of those sneaky good 80s and 90s cafeteria foods. All right, so that ends our nostalgia segment about the cafeteria foods. It was interesting to go back down memory lane, those good cafeteria foods. I'm actually going to show those pictures to my two daughters and see what they think about that cafeteria, the type of cafeteria food that I ate when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s. So it brings me to our last segment of the podcast. I'm too old for this shit. And if you've ever watched Lethal Weapon, you know about Danny Glover's character, Sergeant Murtaugh, and one of his famous lines or quotes or what he's really known for the most is, I'm too old for this shit. He would often say that comment in the movie whenever he was pissed. But on today's I'm too old for this shit, I'm too old for this shit segment. I can't even get that out. Let me say that again. I'm too old for this shit segment. I want to talk about, you know, when you go out and you're at an adult event, and usually three things usually happens when you're at an adult event and you're having a conversation. One, adults, when they're talking, they're usually catching up. You're going back down memory lane or you're having a nostalgia moment. You're talking about some stuff from when you grew up as a kid versus what your kids do now or what's happening in society. That's really fun. Number two, people talk about maybe their careers. What do they do? And have that conversation. That's fine. I like that. I love hearing about other people's careers. And three, the thing that I hate the worst that makes me say I'm too old for this shit is when you get into an adult conversation with another adult that chooses to brag or kind of talk shit and they like to name drop. If they've come in contact or they know someone that's famous, they'll name drop. Well, I know this person or this person is in my family. I get to go eat I've eaten dinner with this person, or I've been to this person's house, or they also like to talk about how much money they make. They let it be known that, hey, I make 400K a year or 500K, or I have a vacation home in this place and I have a vacation home in that place. And they like to talk about the cars that they have, or they'll some kind of way mention the price of their shoes, or I wear nothing but Gucci, or I have 4 Rolex watches. I don't wear those other type of watches. And every time that happens, in my head, I'm saying to myself, I'm too old for this shit. But what I am going to start doing in the future, or what I would tell people watching this podcast to do, is just walk away. They'll get it eventually. Just walk away. Do not even entertain people that do that. Just walk away and say to yourself, I'm too old for this shit. All right. That brings us to the end of our podcast today. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and share with a friend. And I'll see you on tomorrow's podcast.